Okay, hi guys.
Hi everyone.
Welcome guys to our 10 to 13 focus this afternoon. Happy Friday. Hope you guys had a pleasant and quiet week. And yeah, Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. Yeah, I can't really say I have a Friday feeling in
Uh-huh.
particular.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Um, yeah, I guess this weekend again. I'm just gonna be home. I actually do prefer the weekdays now, I think. Just at least gives me something to do. I don't know. I like talk to some teachers and they seem like so motivated. They're like exercising, doing all these things, and I'm like really not doing that much.
No, I'm definitely not exercising.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, hi, Veer. Veronica's joined us today. Hello.
Hi
And
Veronica.
we have Luca joining us from Bologna. Welcome, Luca. I think it's our first time, Luca. I don't remember you from other webinars.
Mhm.
So yeah, guys. So since we do have, at least I know Luca, you're new, so maybe you haven't met us. We can just briefly introduce ourselves. I'm Thiago. So I thought the name did show up on the video, but yesterday I was checking YouTube and it doesn't. So I'm actually gonna spell it out for you guys here. My name is Thiago. I'm 29. I am originally from Brazil, but I've spent many years in California growing up. And I work in the central my English school here in Milan with Sean, and I'll let him introduce himself as well.
Yes, I'm Sean. I'm 21 and I come from Ireland. I've been in the school on Via Meravigli since September. And yeah, I've been in Milan just since September.
Awesome. Fantastic, guys. So we don't really have like a cheerful focus for you today. But this is one that we saw hasn't been done really. So we decided to do something new with you guys. But we will be talking about crime. And specifically, Sean, what are we discussing today?
Yeah, so we're talking about crime and the justice system. So, crime and justice, as that Russian novel says, and crime and punishment vocabulary. So, a lot of vocab and just words to talk about this subject because it is particular, but it does come up in conversation certainly.
Yeah, I think especially if you're reading the news, watching the news, you do kind of come across a lot of this vocabulary. So it can be quite useful. So, all right, we have a comment from Luca. So this is my first time with Chago, but I attended a few focuses with Sean the first week of quarantine. Ah, there you go.
There you
Awesome.
go.
Awesome. Luca, I lived in Bologna for a bit. It's actually the first time I came to Italy. This was back in 2011. I spent a year studying in Bologna, and I still consider it my favorite city in Italy.
Really?
So, yeah, I've had a lot of people tell me that I might not feel the same way if I hadn't been a student there
Okay. Yeah,
because
it is a
it's
very
such a
student.
big university town, and so I really just had so much fun. There's so
Mm.
many events and things, lots of discounts for students as well. The fact, of course, that it is the kind of the gastronomic capital of Italy.
Yeah.
It makes it even better. But yeah, I do really like Bologna, and every time I get to go back, I'm always super happy.
Yeah, I definitely think it is quite underrated, certainly internationally. It's not kind of the tourist trap that other Italian cities are, but maybe that's why it's a bit better off for that.
Yeah, I think it's another kind of nice thing as well because I think you go to other, kind of more famous cities. There are just so many tourists, all the time. Whereas Bologna, you kind of get to kind of enjoy it a bit more without the masses, all the crowds. And you can also
Mhm.
go up in the hills. It's just such a lovely city. Really nice.
Yeah.
Cool. We have Rosaria joining us from Verona as well. So welcome, Rosaria. Julia. Hi, Julia. Julia, where are you from? What city are you writing to us from?
Mhm.
And hi, Lavinia. Welcome again. Fantastic. All right,
Mhm.
guys. So we're gonna jump right in here. We have a few questions for us to ponder about. Sean, do you want to read them for us?
Yes. So, is there a lot of crime in your city, in your country? Is crime on the rise globally? Are there more reports of crime in the news? Are we becoming an increasingly violent society?
Yeah. So of course, you might not have the data, to know for sure if
Mhm.
crime is on the rise or not. But we can also talk from experience, or also the sense that you get from the news. One thing I will say about the news is that now if you go to any kind of like newspaper or any website, you only see news about the coronavirus. So if there
Yeah.
is crime happening, I don't know about any of it because they just don't report it anymore. I feel like
Yeah, no, I actually have been looking for pieces of news that aren't about it just to kind of distract me, and there isn't. Nothing
no,
else is happening.
no, you would have to go to like a specific category I found, but main page, like you will see like 10 or 20 articles between like opinion pieces, reports, the national situation, the international situation, but it's all about COVID-19. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, guys. So choose one question there, whichever one you prefer. Let us know how you feel, or if you do know about it. Okay. Let's see here. What about? So, Sean, you said you come from a pretty small town in Ireland, right?
Yeah, very much
So I
so.
would guess crime is probably not a huge thing in the area, or
No, definitely not. Yeah, that's the thing about Ireland. Certainly in rural Ireland, there's little to no crime. Crime is not a reality in any way. You don't see violence, you don't hear about violence. But I went to university in Dublin, and I think Dublin makes up for the lack of crime in other parts of Ireland generally. Yeah, there is kind of, you know, inner city violence, gangs, things like that. So yeah, crime is part of life in the urban areas in Ireland, but definitely not where I came from in rural
so
Ireland.
you said gang crimes.
Oh yeah, yeah. I stayed in a part of Dublin that was known as kind of a gang area, and there would be, shootings and, things like that. So yeah, I mean,
Oh. And are these? I mean, are these gangs? They originated in Ireland. Are they from there, or are they, sometimes from other countries, and they just kind of manifest themselves there?
no, they're very much Irish, born and bred. Often there's a bit of
Ah.
an overlap between kind of criminal drug gangs and the IRA, which is a terrorist
Oh,
organization
sure. Yeah.
about Irish liberation. But yeah, definitely very, very Irish. Yeah. What about in California?
I would say gang crime is pretty big, because in California there are two really big gangs, like the Bloods and the Crips. You guys
Yeah.
might have heard of it. They're really big. In fact, in my high school, we had a rule that you could not go to school wearing all blue or all red. So they would
Oh,
actually send you home if you had, blue shorts and a blue T-shirt, because then it could be like a gang affiliation. So you couldn't do that. And certainly in Brazil, I mean, Brazil is one of the most violent countries out there. I think if you look at the
yeah.
ranking of the most violent cities, I think Brazil probably has at least a good five on the top 20.
Okay.
So it's the crime is certainly a reality. In fact, I think living in Brazil, you tend to kind of live in a bubble if you can afford it, and you don't even have to be super rich or anything. But if you can afford it, your top priority is to have a house inside kind of like a closed condominium, with electric fences, security guards 24/7. Even just sometimes getting inside like an apartment complex, you have to, if you live there, you usually have your fingerprints, and so it's really intense.
Yeah, that was one thing that was a big change for me moving from the countryside to Dublin because we didn't lock our door in the countryside.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there was never any reason why we had to. But in Dublin, you have burglar alarms, you lock your door, you have to be a bit more vigilant.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a bit of a difference.
Yeah, it's funny when I lived in Crema, because I always perceived Crema as a very safe town. But and so we were pretty chill about our door as well. My roommate and I, we didn't leave it unlocked, but it was one of those doors that as long as you closed it, it was kind of locked. But it would take like one turn of the key to open it. And but our neighbors are always like locking, like three different locks on the door. I'm like, we live in a town, like what's going on? And but they were like, no, you must absolutely lock everything because people do get into, inside your house. So I mean, I've never been a victim of any crime, luckily, be it in Brazil, in California, here in Italy. So I guess I've been
Mm,
lucky, but I do hear about it quite a bit.
yeah, I mean, I've just been pickpocketed, nothing more serious than that, but that was it.
And was that in Dublin?
In Dublin and in Florence, actually. I mean, maybe I'm
Ah,
just not careful, but in Dublin more than once.
I see. All right. Well, we have some comments here, so let's have a look. So Julia just said, okay, she's from Pescara. Excellent, Julia from Milan, and you had some lessons with the both of us. Fantastic. Veronica saying, I've heard that during the coronavirus period, crimes decreased for the 50% in. Wow, so cut in half. Yeah. So here, Veronica, I would say, so they have decreased by 50% if you're talking about the rate of decrease. Yeah, so I mean, I guess it would kind of make sense because if you are a criminal and you're not even allowed to be out, you're not going to have a certification like I'm out to commit crimes. So
Mhm.
it's quite risky. It's a risky time to try to, be out and about. And in my city, there isn't a lot of crime, Luca, great. And I think that in my hometown, there is a considerable use of drugs and there are some little thefts. Yeah, like some small thefts. We could also call this, Julia, petty crime. So those are like little things that wouldn't, you wouldn't maybe go to jail for it. Petty crime.
Mhm.
Yeah, excellent. Let's see any other questions that might be worth looking at. Is crime on the rise globally? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the kind of crimes that are committed are maybe changing. Certainly with the internet, that's a whole new kind of area for crime, and certainly I think scams and things like that are
Oh yeah, that's a
on
good
the
one.
up.
Scam. Yeah, do you want
Mm.
to tell them what a scam is?
Yeah, so a scam is kind of a deception or some kind of way of getting money out of them, which it's not violently stealing or anything like that. It's just tricking someone into giving you money and then
Hmm.
stealing it.
Yeah, one very big scam, certainly in Milan, but I would also imagine in other cities, is for apartments. When you're looking to find a place to live, and then you see, a really nice place, fully furnished, and has a much lower price than the average. And then when you get in touch with the person, they kind of have a similar story that they're abroad, and so they can't quite come show you the apartment. But if you were to send them a small deposit, then they would mail you the keys or something, and then that deposit would come back to you if you didn't like the apartment or something. That's a huge one that I see a lot in my experience looking for houses. And yeah, internet crime. Another thing is that it's really hard to find the people who committed those crimes. Also because they tend to be international in nature. uh, these people might be scamming you, all the way from, an African country or in the US. You don't know. So, yeah. All right, guys. Guess we can move on. But if you are writing anything, keep on going. All right. So here we have, so the question is, which word is used in the text in three different ways as various parts of speech. Parts of speech as in, is it a noun, an adjective, adverb, etc. So we have, I guess, an excerpt from a newspaper or something. Sean, can you read that one? And then, guys, you can look for this word that is used 3 times in different ways.
So, police are searching for a homicide suspect in Lancaster tonight. Residents are warned to stay in their homes and contact the authorities if they spot anyone suspicious. The convict is suspected of killing the driver of a car which he stole to use as a getaway vehicle for a robbery. He was released on parole just last week.
Yeah, this is definitely not a petty crime. Jesus, like killing the driver. Really aggressive.
Yes. Did you ever play Grand Theft Auto?
Oh my gosh, yes. I really like that
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but I remember my mother was very, very disapproving of it and I can see her point, maybe.
Yeah, so, but even just like, because if you hear it, even like the comments that the pedestrians make as you're going around, just like a lot of profanity and very violent, surely. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
but good,
whole premise of the game.
good fun anyway.
I do really enjoy it. Yeah. I actually like it more for kind of like the free roaming rather than the missions themselves. So I
Yeah, I
want to
don't
like
think.
finish the game so I can unlock all the parts of the city, and then I'm just like flying planes around, going to different parts of the city.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, guys, very nice. Lavinia, Rosalia, fantastic. So the 3 words are right here. So a suspect, suspicious, and suspected. And so, what is the difference here? Like a suspect, suspected, and suspicious. So I guess maybe we can even maybe tell you guys this one so that we don't take too much time. So a suspect. So Sean, what is a suspect?
So a suspect is a noun. A suspect is a person who is thought to have committed a crime, who maybe they're in a situation where it seems that they could have committed a crime. It's not confirmed or unconfirmed yet. They're a suspect.
Exactly. Having committed a crime. Yeah. So then we can tackle both here, right? So a suspect is a person who is suspected. So we got the adjective and the noun. And what about suspicious?
Yeah, so suspicious is different to suspect. Suspicious is it's just someone who seems as if they are up to no good, as if they are maybe doing something criminal or something negative.
Mm-hmm.
There's no crime yet that they could have committed. It's just they're doing unusual things which seem criminal in some way.
Exactly. Would you also use the word like shady or dodgy?
Yeah, definitely. I would say dodgy or dodge a lot.
Yeah. I guess I would say more shady in that case, but yeah. And you can also use this to refer to, parts of the city or something like that. That's a dodgy area. It's a shady area. Um, cool. And then, guys, if there are any other pieces of vocabulary that you see here, let us know. See if we can identify anything in particular. So to spot, I guess, can be a good one. To spot would be to identify.
Hmm.
Mm, okay. All right. Again, anything else, do let us know. We're going to move on in the meantime. Okay. So here we have a crime. And we would like you guys to put these events in chronological order. So here, I'll read half of these, and then Sean, if you want to finish it. So we have, he shot and killed the driver. He was read his rights. A witness heard the shots and called the authorities. And he stole the vehicle.
The convict was released on parole. He accosted the driver of a vehicle. The suspect was arrested and put in handcuffs. He claimed innocence. He robbed a bank.
Yeah, exactly. So do put those in order. In the meantime, we have a couple good questions here. So Julia's asking us, so what do convict and getaway mean? Sure. So a convict, Julia, is someone who has been convicted of a crime. So it has been established that they committed the crime. Okay, so convict, it can even be used, I think, sometimes to refer to like a prisoner, a convict. So someone who has been held for a crime. Okay, so it's kind of like I would say the criminal, to keep it simple. It's a little more complex than that, but yeah, that it comes from to convict someone. That's the verb. And ghetto. So here, not gateway. I believe it was getaway. Yeah, they're quite similar. So a getaway vehicle. So a vehicle that is used to get away. A vehicle that is used to escape. It comes from the phrasal verb get away, escape. You can even use it as a noun. In that case, I guess it's usually more of a vacation spot, like, oh, the perfect getaway, as in it's a really nice vacation spot away from everyone. But as an adjective, you can also say, yeah, a getaway vehicle.
Mhm.
And then Veronica's asking us to spot is, yeah, to spot is to identify or to find. How do they put it here? So yeah, residents are warned to stay in their homes and to contact the authorities if they spot anyone suspicious. If they see, if they identify any kind of suspicious behavior, they should contact the authorities. A funny one for me here is the word accosted, because this is very similar to Italian. I didn't even know this was English.
No,
I would just
I
say,
would know it costed.
you would say the police accosted me or something.
It is a bit of a, I would say, a hoity-toity thing to say, but I would be familiar with it. I would know what they
Uh,
meant. Yeah, to be accosted, to be
Because I
kind of.
would say always pull over. I was pulled over.
Oh, do you think that's what it means in this context, accosted?
What is it? Because in
I
Italian,
would
that's what it
understand
is.
accosted as kind of to be physically apprehended, like in this picture.
Ah, so not to pull
That's what I
over.
Yeah, but maybe it does mean to pull
Yeah,
over.
I'm not sure what
I
to
would
say.
think pull over as well.
No, you're right. So yeah, to approach and address someone boldly or aggressively. Ah, I see. Okay. To accost. Cool. Yeah, I didn't know that one. All right, so maybe we'll give you guys the first one. Then I guess it's easier to continue from there. So we have the first one. The convict was released on parole. Maybe on parole is a good one also to explain. So what's on parole? So what's your understanding of on parole, Sean, when you see that expression?
Well, if you're on parole, you have been, it's kind of conditional release. You're out of jail, but you have to fulfill a number of expectations. You will be checked, by the police. You can't do drugs or drink and things like that, and you have to stay in a particular, usually a halfway house of some kind. So a
Mm-hmm.
kind of semi freedom, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah, usually if you have good behavior in jail, you might qualify for, early release, conditional release, or to be released on parole. Yeah. And definitely a halfway house is quite common. Definitely. So yeah, another one it could be, of course, Luca, he robbed a bank, yeah, because we didn't quite know like where to. So even for me, it was quite tricky. So let's see this one. So the convict was released on parole, and then perhaps let's see. I guess it could be the next one. Could be he robbed a bank. Yeah. So he robbed a bank.
Mm.
No, so he accosted. So that was new for me as well. So see, that is something that the police would do, right? And so maybe that won't be a little bit later.
No, I think he can do it as well.
You could, all right, baby.
I
I'm
think it
like getting, I'm getting.
actually might be that way.
Ah, yeah, actually, you're absolutely right. Cool. Because I thought he would have to steal the vehicle first. Ah, okay.
No,
I'm getting so confused by this whole story. All right. The criminal did that. The criminal approached the driver of the vehicle, and then okay,
yeah, he's hijacking the car.
okay, then he shot and killed the driver. There you go. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I guess we're just gonna move on, guys. Here, so he stole the vehicle. Then a witness heard the shots and called the authorities. The suspect was arrested and put in handcuffs. We can see here in the picture, the police is holding the handcuffs. He was read his rights and he claimed innocence.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was super confused by this whole story myself. Yeah. Okay, so there has been a lot of vocab here, guys, which we're going to look at actually a little more clearly right now. Okay, so Sean, do you want to read the words here, and I can read the definitions, and guys, you can maybe match them.
So, suspect, convict, guilty, innocent, parole, and authorities.
Exactly, and the definitions are blameless, the police, having committed a crime, having served a prison sentence, a person thought to be guilty, and conditional release from prison. So just match the numbers with the letters now.
Veronica feels like she's on parole during this quarantine. I feel a bit like I'm under house arrest
Yeah, it's like
personally.
house arrest. uh, yeah, there's some days it really feels like a lot not being able to do anything.
At this point, I must say I'm very used to it. I think it'll be difficult to go back to normal life, but we'll.
Mm. I don't know. See, some days I feel more used to it. Today was a difficult one for some reason. I don't know. It just felt like the day was like dragging so much, and I was just like so tired of like looking at the same walls. All right, so a suspect, you guys are saying, is E. So a suspect is a person thought to be guilty. Absolutely. Two, you guys are all saying C for that one. So a convict is someone, yeah, having committed a crime. So I would say, yeah, having, because a convict, as we said before, it's usually something for like a prisoner, because you've been convicted. Okay, so you have gone through the process and it has been established that you are guilty of it. So someone who has served a prison sentence. Uh, three, okay, so we'll give you time because you guys were thinking, because Veronica has D here, but we saw that two is D. So guilty.
Mm.
Right, so I believe you're absolutely right here, Luca. So we just had to switch them around. Good. And then we have innocent. If you're innocent, yes, you have no blame. So you are blameless. Five, we have parole. which would be F, a conditional release from prison, which we said before. Great. And the authorities is another word we would use exactly for the police, the authorities. All right. So with these new words, let's kind of fill in the gaps here. We have a few others. Actually, these are all new, right? We have convict. That's like one that was the same, but all the other ones are quite new, actually. Sean, do you want to read these words here? We can maybe talk about some of them before we try to plug them in.
Yeah, so judge, bail, evidence, arrest, convict, jury, attorney, counsel, charge, interrogate, release, defendant, and prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we'll maybe we'll talk about just the most difficult ones, guys, and then the others. Let's just try maybe from the context. We can kind of guess the meaning and kind of plug them in. Bail, I think, is one that you might not be very familiar with.
Mhm.
So it can be used as a verb to bail someone. You just to bail someone out of prison, or can bail money can be used kind of like that. So to bail is to it's usually to give the money that is required, that has been established based on how serious the case is or the probability of that person escaping. So if the authorities feel that the person will not, flee the country or uh, something like that, you can pay bail for that person, and so they are released from the cell in which they're being held, um, and they can kind of be free until their court date. So until it has been established whether or not they're guilty. Okay, that's to bail someone or to pay their bail. An attorney, Julia, is another word for a lawyer.
Yeah, this is actually something I'm quite curious about because I find this quite confusing because this is, I think, the American system. Whereas I grew up talking about solicitors and barristers. So I don't really understand
Ah,
attorney and counsel. I mean, from American films, I've seen them certainly, but I can't really say I understand it.
yeah, for me, attorney, I just think of a lawyer. Um,
Mm.
Attorney. Let me see if the just like proper definition. If I get anything, attorney. Yeah, a person. It says a person, typically a lawyer, appointed to act for another in business or legal terms. So yeah, basically a lawyer.
Mhm.
And which one? Which words do you use?
A barrister and solicitor. So a barrister is a lawyer who goes to court, and a solicitor is one that does not, that just files things and organizes someone's affairs, their will and things like that.
I see. I guess so. The counsel then would be the equivalent to a barrister.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So maybe as you're thinking of the possible answers here, we can just kind of slowly maybe go through them. That way it gives time for your answers to kind of come through. So let's see. After a suspect has been, oh gosh, let me get rid of this sound here. All right. So after a suspect has been arrested and interrogated, because those are the first steps, right? The police first, they need to catch you doing something wrong, and then they arrest you and they interrogate you. So those are the first two steps. So after a suspect has been arrested and interrogated by the police, the district or the city attorney, okay, so this is the lawyer in this case that is working for the city. So they are the ones that will be prosecuting you, that will be trying to, convince the court to convict you. So they can choose to charge, and that's the verb that we would say here. To charge someone is to so that's what the attorney side, that's what they do, that's what the prosecution does. They establish the kind of the punishment that they believe that you should receive, and then they take you to court to try to make that happen. So they can choose to charge the suspect with the crime if there is enough evidence. There's enough evidence. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let us know if anything isn't clear here. All right, Sean, do you want to do the next few, maybe until like is called the?
Sure. So the suspect can hire counsel, I think,
Mm-hmm.
or if he can't afford one, a public defender will be assigned to represent him. The accused in a criminal proceeding is called the defendant, and the accuser is called the prosecution. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, the kind of the person being accused is the defendant, and the accuser is the prosecution. And you also, it goes for their lawyers as well. The defense and the prosecution
Mm-hmm.
and lawyers as well.
Exactly. And at the first hearing, so the first appointment in court, so at the first hearing, the suspect can be released on bail. So that's what we said before. So in which money can be paid in order for that person to wait until the case is finished. So at the first hearing, the suspect can be released on bail if there is low flight risk. So flight here comes from the idea of to flee, so to escape, not like a plane flight. When the case is tried, so it has gone through a trial, the jury will determine if the defendant is innocent or guilty.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. And then the last two there.
If he is guilty, the judge will convicted. The judge will determine the sentence.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so lots of really specific vocabulary there, guys. So let's just do a very brief maybe review of all this to make sure everything is clear, because there really is a lot before we kind of comment on another possible case. So I'm just going to go back 1 second because we had quite a few over here as well. So a suspect, right, is someone that perhaps committed a crime. So they are considered suspicious by the police. Okay. A convict is someone who has served a prison sentence. Someone who is guilty is that it has been established that they committed the crime. The opposite of guilty is someone who is innocent, so they have no blame. To be released on parole is a kind of a conditional release, so that you are physically out of prison, but there are still some limitations on what you can or cannot do, and there are usually lots of checks as well. And the authorities is another word for the police. Okay. All right. Maybe here, Sean, do you want to go through these ones and I'll talk about these?
Yes, so the judge is the person up at the top of the court who makes the final decision or kind of presides over the whole thing. Bail is when if you pay an amount of money, you can be released before your trial. So if you post bail, if you pay bail. The evidence are the objects or the circumstances which suggest that you committed a crime. An arrest is when you are apprehended by the police, when they stop you because you are suspected of committing a crime. A convict is someone who has been in jail, who is either still in jail or has been released. The jury is the group of people, the group of citizens who either make the decision or help the judge to make a decision, depending on the nature of the trial. And the attorney is the lawyer, another word for a lawyer.
Exactly. And then counsel, or as Sean would call it, a barrister, then is also another word that can be used for a lawyer. There are some specific differences, but just think of it as being another lawyer. To charge someone is to establish basically the kind of punishment that you would like them to have. So you're charging them, although this will be properly decided on towards the end of the trial. To interrogate, that's one of the first things that you do. So immediately after the arrest, the authorities will interrogate the suspect. To release is to let the suspect perhaps go free. The defendant is another word used for the person that is being accused, right? Because they're kind of defending themselves. And the prosecution is the other side, the side that is trying to establish that the suspect is indeed guilty. So defendant and the prosecution. All right. And Julia has the first hearing. Yeah, the first session, I guess, yeah, that's what you mean by session. Yeah, the first hearing, it's the first appointment that you have with the court. Okay, this can be quite a small appointment, just a couple people, just to establish one of the main things that are established in the first hearing is if the suspect can be released on parole. So to establish the nature of the crime, if that person, maybe they have a criminal record that indicates that they are dangerous, or if there are high probabilities this person will flee and not be there for the actual case. So that's what the first hearing is. You have different hearings for a case. If I'm not mistaken, I think in Italian you call this an udienza, which like udire is like to hear as well. So I believe it's the same thing. All right. Yeah, so loads of really specific jargon here.
Mm.
So yeah,
But certainly, if you watch American television, it will be relevant to you.
yeah, especially if you like crime shows. I know a lot of people
Mm.
do, and so yeah, they come up a lot. All right, let us know if maybe afford can be a good one to talk about as well. So to afford is to be able to pay for something. See, if you can't afford a lawyer to defend, then a public defender will be assigned. That's when you don't, the system provides for you. Okay, we have just a few more questions, guys, to kind of conclude this focus. Sean, do you want to read these questions?
How is the justice system in your country different from the process previously described? Do the suspects have the right to remain silent if they so choose? Does a jury or a judge determine the verdict? What aspects of your justice system do you think are unique?
Yeah. So this can also be based on any experience, again, you have, especially watching TV, any big differences that you know about. One that I know people find quite intriguing about the American system is that we have jury duty, which I know in Italy doesn't exist. Do you guys have jury duty, Sean, in Ireland?
Yeah, but it's pretty rare. I don't think it's something that happens to everyone at all. We don't have juries in all trials. To be honest, I don't know that much about our criminal system, but it's definitely not as much of a thing as in America, I don't think.
Yeah, in the US, most people get it at some point in their lives that you receive a letter in your mailbox that requires you to serve as the jury for a case. And so in that case, you do have to go to court and you do have to be part of a jury of people, the popular jury, to then kind of decide whether or not the person is guilty. And so this is something that most people dread. Most people don't want to be on jury duty. People try to get out of it. There are some reasons that might, make you qualify not to serve on the jury, but most people are called at some point or another to be part of it.
Hmm. Certainly, I think something that people might find strange in Ireland, and it's the same in the UK, is that the barristers and the judges, they wear the wigs in court.
Do they really like the big white, like the white wigs?
Yeah, the wigs, yeah, for the High Court. It's tradition.
Yeah, in the U.S., not the wigs. I don't. I mean, I guess it could also change maybe by state. In some states, there might be that. I mean, usually they do have the kind of the black. I don't know if you would call it like a robe or if there's like another word for it. But yeah, you do have that, like the kind of outfit, but not the wig.
No, it's a bit odd. I know something different in Italy is that there's a very big culture of appeals here. That the first judgment is not necessarily the final word. It's very common to appeal a case and to go to court several times over the course of many years.
Yeah, because also it
Yeah,
buys you a
I
lot of time.
certainly I remember. Yeah, I mean, I remember the case with Amanda Knox. Was that her name?
Yeah,
And that was, yeah, a lot of issues between Italy and America at that point.
yeah. I still have to see the because I know there's a documentary on Netflix about her case. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I watched it. It's very good. It was in Perugia, I think it all went down.
Yeah, another really odd case I had no idea about it was Making a Murderer. Have you seen that one on Netflix?
No, I haven't watched that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it
one
was
is
someone was
wild.
framed.
That's the thing. I mean, that's kind of what you're led to believe if you watch it, but it still kind of leaves you like up in the air. You're not quite sure. But yeah, that's another good one to
Yeah.
frame someone. So if you
Mm.
frame someone, you try to do everything you can to make them look guilty. You might even plant evidence that wasn't there, manipulate evidence. In this specific case, they're kind of like saying that there was like this family in this very small town in like middle America, and anyway, the family was they're a bit of like troublemakers in general around town. So they had plenty of like enemies, including in the police force. And then the whole idea is that they were really trying to frame this one person specifically. He was proven that he had been framed and he got released. And then he got, kind of convicted again for something else. So it's wild.
Oh,
It's like you watch, it's like a soap opera. But he's still in
yeah.
jail, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Someone who was released not so long ago was O.J. Simpson. That
Ah,
was
yeah.
a great TV series recently. Yeah. Still very controversial.
All right, guys. If you're writing anything, we'll just kind of wait just another minute to see if the answers kind of come through. But we have reached the end here. So yeah, lots of vocab for sure. But hopefully, you'll be able to understand things a little bit better. When you're reading newspaper articles or you're watching a TV show. Um, yeah, some of them are, of course, more useful than others and more used than others as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think subjects like crime and politics and religion become more relevant when you're really trying to master language and have those more complicated discussions. So
Mhm.
it is specific, but it's an important step, I think, to look at these kinds of things.
Exactly. But yeah, thank you guys so much for participating, asking good questions. All right. And have a nice weekend, guys, if we don't see you tomorrow or later tonight at some point.
Yeah. Bye
All right.
bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Bye bye, Luca.